Hello and welcome back to the Preppy Podcast. Thank you all so much for listening. Today I am interviewing Erin. She is a former ski wear brand founder turned author. She recently released the book Après Ski, which is a seriously beautiful coffee table book. It makes a great gift going into the holiday season. We'll talk more about the book in the episode, but basically it has some history of ski, lots of beautiful vintage ski pictures, and then even some ski related recipes and cocktails. I just thoroughly enjoyed flipping through the pages. It's really well put together. And I loved my conversation with Erin, learning more about her previous brand and how she became an author and her journey in writing this book. So it's a great episode and sort of kicking off our holiday season podcast, I would say. And then I have a really fun announcement. So our first Camp Preppy of 2026 tickets are now available on thepreppypodcast.com. So if you go there, you'll find all the information, but our first one is sort of Galentine's themed, and it will be at the Ritz-Carlton in Las Colinas, which is right by Dallas, Texas. I was there a few times in the past for work events, and it's truly just so gorgeous. It's a great location. Getting to Dallas, I think, is easy for most people with flights and everything. And the resort is so nice. It recently was renovated, so they have beautiful bathrooms in each of the rooms, just really spacious. Even on the property, there's golf and other activities. I think it's a great location for this fun Valentine's themed Camp Preppy. So go there, get your tickets. I keep these Camp Preppies small. I don't ever want them to be like a big conference type of atmosphere. So tickets will go fast for this, I'm sure, because we had so much interest in the past one. I know a lot of campers want to attend another one, and I had lots of people, emailing me, DMing me, wanting another one because they couldn't attend the past one that we did in the summertime. So here's your chance, the first one, and I will be releasing more information about the activities and, sponsors, things like that. But you can expect basically the same thing that you saw from our past Camp Preppy, just a great preppy activities, making friendships, amazing gift bags to leave with, and lots of little surprises. But stay tuned as I release those and get your ticket ASAP. All right, let's get into this week's episode.
All right, so why don't you first let everyone know who you are, where you live, and what you do?
My name is Erin Isakov. I live in Laguna Beach, California, which is a small beach town about an hour south of Los Angeles. And I'm the author of the new book, Après Ski, The Scene, the Style, the Menu. And I was also the co-founder of ski brand Erin Snow.
Excellent. I am so excited to chat with you more today because I think skiing and après are so preppy. It's a preppy lifestyle. And I'm thrilled to learn more about your businesses, your book, and all of that. But let's start at the beginning. Tell me a little bit about you as a kid. Were you someone that was entrepreneurial? Were you into fashion and style? Did you write a book as a kid? I feel like a lot of us wrote little books for ourselves to have our parents read when we were little. What was your childhood like?
I grew up in Southern California. I didn't spend most of my adult life in Southern California, but I recently relocated back here. But as a child, grew up doing a lot of skiing. My dad was a ski patroller before I was born, and then on reserve patrol when I was a kid. So skiing was a huge part of my life, my family life, and kind of my family story. Everyone in our family has a learn to ski story where we, inaugurated the next kid on the mountain, usually around 2 years old. So cousins and my own children. And so that's been a big part of my life. And as a child, I would say that I was always a kind of a go-getter as a kid, working as hard as humanly possible, trying to juggle a million things. I think I had huge probably bigger ambitions than I should have. I thought I was really clever and really capable of doing a lot of things. And, looking back on it, you think, oh my gosh, I cannot believe that I had the gumption to, think that I was capable of doing these things. But nonetheless, here I am. Yeah, I mean, as far as writing goes, um, I think for me, writing kind of came later. I was very much a creative. And actually, as a kid, I was very much an activist. It was really an interesting thing for me. I was very interested in human rights issues and environmental issues. And so that kind of took me through college. And then starting my business, that was a big part of kind of how we ran our business. And then writing really came once I had a brand and was writing for the brand, writing blog posts, things like that, about whether it was like skiing travel or just best practices, things like that, getting dressed for skiing. And then it kind of evolved as more, more recently, I guess, with the book.
Of course. Well, it sounds like, the common thread throughout everything is really skiing. You said you started so young skiing and it was part of your family growing up. And then obviously it led into your brand and now your book. So tell me a little bit about then in college, what did you end up studying and where did you go? Did it have to do with something in, environmental science, let's say, or, pre-law or anything like that, or design, or what did you study then? Because it sounds like your interest was kind of in various places.
So it absolutely was. Yeah, I went to Brown in Providence, Rhode Island, and I double majored in public policy and political and moral philosophy. So not at all related to fashion, and not at all what I thought I would be doing. And it's like a funny story, really, because I always loved design. I loved art. My father was very much like the skier. He was a big surfer, and he was an artist. He studied art in school, and so I think I felt like, okay, I need a really stable, profession as an adult. So I didn't allow myself. I felt like it was an indulgence in allowing myself to pursue art professionally. But then, of course, as I went through college and was looking for summer internships and things like that, I just was so drawn to the fashion world and design. And that's really what I wanted to do. So I started interning over the summer when I was in college. And one internship led to another internship. I just couldn't stop myself. I kept going back. So I pivoted basically after graduating, didn't apply to law school, and went to work in fashion. And then only like a year and a half or 2 years later, I thought I had enough knowledge to start my own business, which was a little bit, ambitious. But anyway, it worked out well. So
Definitely. Well, that's so funny. So I started, my full-time job in PR. I started that, like a year or two after I graduated too. And I think there's something though about that like young, blind ambition that looking back, even now, I'll say that I want to connect with someone or, create this idea. And when I was younger, I could just like do it in a sec. I'd be like, this is my idea. I'm running with it. And I kind of miss that, right? It's like, if you could bottle that up and sell it, to older people, you'd be a gazillionaire.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think about it now. I'm like, oh my God, I don't have the energy to think that way anymore, right? And yeah, I think, yeah, it's that blind ambition, and you think you're full of like confidence, right? And I remember sitting in my office, and I was working in this very cool design studio for a big brand in New York, and surrounded by all these incredible people and seeing things in the fashion world in New York and all the parties and all of the experience of it. And I thought, man, you know what? I am smart and I work so hard, and I should just do this for myself. I should take all of this energy and put it into my own brand. And also, for skiing, I was working in fashion, and at the time, fashion was sport was very much not considered fashion, which is so funny today when you think about it, because sport it's huge, right?
Yep.
And
Athleisure and
activewear,
everything. Yep.
exactly. But this was, 10 years before the word athleisure even existed, right? So back then it was the anti-fashion, and nobody spent, people bought their workout gear at Target and whatever was, there wasn't, Lululemon really didn't even exist then. I don't think. I think it was starting right around the same time. And so, yeah, I felt like there was something missing. And so that's what gave me that extra kind of boost. Like,
Yeah.
if I can take what I've learned in fashion and apply it to this sport that I love so much, where there's such a void, then I really feel like, and put all that energy and all that work and all those hours into that. I think, and it, and it does, it works. It's not easy, right?
Yeah.
As you
But
know, starting a
yeah.
business isn't easy.
Definitely. But I love that. I think as entrepreneurs, it's something that's in your blood early on. You realize, like, why am I doing this for someone else? Like you mentioned, I could be doing this for myself. And I think people either have that or they don't. Like, I remember even, with business, it's ups and downs, right? There's no easy route. And so sometimes I'd be like, oh my gosh, wouldn't it just be so easy if I like went and worked for someone else? And I'm like, no, I would hate that. I literally would hate that. So you have it or you don't. So tell me a little bit about then your brand that you had started, Erin Snow. Like, kind of what did it look like? How did you get it out there? Like, were you selling to stores? Were you selling online? What was kind of the launch looking like?
So, so luckily, because I was working in fashion, I had a good network of relationships and I was on the product side already. But I actually worked in merchandising, so I had kind of my eye on every kind of angle within the business. So I was going to all the big sales meetings with all the big department stores. I had relationships with PR and all of that side of the business. But I sat within the design team and the product team. So I learned so much. So when I started Erin Snow, I was able to call on those relationships with pattern makers, with fabric vendors, with factories, and then simultaneously I understood what line sheets looked like, what pricing looked like,
Mhm.
what merchandising looked like, and product planning, and how those meetings took place and what they felt
Mhm.
like, and just kind of the tempo of sales meetings and PR and all of that. So I got really lucky in my
Yeah.
job because it really gave me like the best education. Even though I didn't go to fashion school, it
Yeah.
was really my fashion school, kind of on you know on the go fashion school, real world fashion school, I should say. So yeah, so when we launched, we basically followed that same model, wholesale
Okay.
model. Ecom was just starting at that time. It was 2003. So we launched, I don't even think we had a website when we first launched, but within that first year we did. And back then there was, oh my gosh, what was it? Daily Candy. I don't know if you remember.
Yes. Oh, that was so good. I miss it.
Exactly. So that was sort of the big, because we didn't have social media, we didn't have
Yeah.
any of those things. So we launched and we were able to gain traction by picking up accounts in a lot of the ski towns, so a lot of big ski retailers, important ones. And then
Mhm.
also we were brought into Bloomingdale's our very first season. And then we also got featured on Daily Candy and a few other things. So it gave us just enough momentum
Mhm.
to kind of kick things off, even
Yeah.
though, it was just me and my husband. We had one other person working, part time for us at the time. And anyway, but it gave us enough of, a momentum that within that first year to know that we were okay, we've done it. Like, we're off,
Yeah.
we got our foothold, and now we just need to build.
Certainly, it leveraged it. Oh my gosh, Daily Candy, I feel like so many businesses, that is how they kind of got launched and really elevated them, like put them at the next level back then. It was like the original blog or like original website, because even though, in some sense it was editorial, like a magazine or publication, it was more written, I would say, like a blog, like more personal or casual. But that was such a good newsletter. So walk me through that brand a little bit in terms of, what was like a huge pinch me moment or milestone that you went through, something you're really proud of that you were able to do with that brand?
So I would say the first decade, it was a lot of, we were very much within the ski world, and ski and fashion were not really aligned yet, and that the sport kind of fashion moment hadn't happened yet. So we were running, a successful small family business, selling to ski shops all over, the United States, mostly a little bit in Europe, but mostly in the US. And then I decided to apply for a CFDA competition, sort of, I don't know why. It was again one of those things like, well, why not? And let's see what happens. Even though sport is not fashion, right? Was sort of the line still. And so, to my great surprise, actually I applied to. It happened twice. So first in 2013, they had a small competition called the Eco Fashion Challenge, and I applied, and we were a finalist. And so it was. And I think because I came originally from the fashion world and I lived in New York, so I was still sort of part of that world. I still had friends in fashion, and so I didn't feel like a complete outsider, as if perhaps I was living in Colorado or Utah or something, running a ski wear brand.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and then the big thing was the CFDA, the fashion initiative. So they decided to kind of level up this eco fashion challenge into a much bigger thing, sort of like the Vogue Fashion Fund, but for sustainability.
Okay.
And it ran as like a 20-month long competition with mentors, and the mentors were phenomenal people from all different parts of the fashion world and also kind of sustainable material world. And the contestant, like the finalists, there were 10 brands involved in it, and they were, some of them huge brands. Prabal Gurung was one of the finalists. Aurora James from Brother Vellies, and there were some jewelry brands. It was kind of, there were 10 of us, and Erin Snow, and it was a big deal because we were the only sport brand, and we were very much like an outsider. And then we ended up winning
Oh my
the
gosh.
grand prize, and so it was very exciting. And that kind of, like, I would say that then brought a ton of other opportunities. So
Mm-hmm.
we then did a collaboration with the Woolmark company right after that, and then we launched on Net-a-Porter, which was huge.
Huge.
That
Yeah.
was a huge moment for us, and brought the brand global. So then we were selling, all over the world. And when other retailers saw it on Net, then they, reached out. So that was a big moment for us. Yeah, and then, I think it's just like from there, you're kind of, it's things start coming to you, which is
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
nice, instead of having
definitely.
to bang on every door yourself.
For sure. Oh my gosh. I mean, those are some huge milestones and great things to accomplish. So then, at what point did you kind of decide to step away from that? Like, what was the reasoning behind that, the thought process, and what did that look like?
Yeah, so it's actually been brewing for a few years. I didn't speak about it really
Hmm.
to anyone except my, inner circle family, family.
Yep.
But, I've been doing this for almost a quarter of a century. It's a long time. And we always ran Erin Snow as a small family business, but we competed with the biggest ski brands in the world. So, Bochner, even Montclair, right?
Yeah.
And so we were it was, it was a lot, and it was phenomenal and amazing, but it's not a brand I wanted my children taking over, and it wasn't something that it was my baby. It was my passion, my project, my first baby, I guess I should say. And I knew that it wasn't something I could be doing, into my older ages, not the way that we were doing it. And it's not something I really wanted to sell or have anyone else run.
Hmm.
Um, I've seen what's happened to other, especially ski brands, historic ski brands, heritage brands who sold to other companies, bigger companies or other brands, and they've become, Walmart brands basically in the
Hmm.
process. And that's not what I wanted to happen to Erin Snow. And I think I just realized, well, I'm still young enough to get in, 100 days of skiing a year and really enjoy it. And I've kind of accomplished everything I set out to accomplish with the brand. I felt, and then this book came to me really
Yeah.
as it kind of came out of the universe and landed in my lap as an opportunity. And I thought, okay, the universe is telling me it's okay. I kind of checked every box that I really, I had my wish list of things I wanted to do, and I feel like I accomplished them. And so I felt like, okay, I've delivered a ski collection every year for the last, almost 25 years. And this year I'm delivering my book instead.
Yeah.
At literally the same week I would have delivered the collection.
Oh my gosh.
So it felt like a very serendipitous
Had
way
to
of me
be.
feeling okay because it was a hard decision, but
Hmm.
it took a lot of kind of, courage in a weird way. You'd think it would lack courage to kind of, close your business and step away from it.
No.
Yeah, it was a hard decision because it was my, it's been my identity for so long, and I love doing it, and obviously I still love design and
Yeah.
things like that. But I felt like it was just like this perfect way of pivoting. So
Yep. Well, and I was going to say, no, it's actually, I think, honorable, like how you did it, because there's so many times I have a business book club. And so I've read so many books about entrepreneurs, and within that, there's so many, like you mentioned, they sell their brand and then it turns into a much lesser quality, and not what the founder really wanted the brand to be. So I think being able to step back and say, I don't want to sell it. I want to just step away, like leave on a high. I feel like that's what people talk about so many times with TV shows too. It's like sometimes even with TV shows, they don't know when to end it. And then it just kind of ends up fizzling out, like not great with the ending, 10 seasons later. So I think that took a lot of like courage to do that when there's so much talk on a lot of business podcasts about like growing, scaling, and then selling as the ultimate thing, right?
right,
And
exactly. And that was never our goal. And we never took outside investors either.
yeah,
So, I think there are different ways of running businesses,
yeah,
obviously. We ran ours as a small, profitable family business. That was the model, and that's what we stuck with the whole time versus taking a lot of other people's money and spending it and being in debt.
yes,
So,
yeah. 1,000%. So now that brings us then, like you mentioned, to this beautiful book. So tell me a little bit about then how that happened. You said it sort of, was serendipitous. It fell into your lap. And when I say that, I hate when things sound like, oh, everything just happened and it was so lucky. But obviously, like there was so much work and there was a reason then you got this opportunity. So I don't want to, lack that. I want to make sure we spotlight that. But tell me about, getting this amazing opportunity and then the writing process.
so yes, you are 100% right. Obviously, it came to me not because I was just some person who liked skiing. Obviously, I built a brand and and had a business, and all of the work that I did with Erin Snow is the reason why the book happened.
Hmm.
And um, and so it was really really an incredible story because it was a customer of ours actually who um, just it was she had just gone on a trip to Europe for the holidays, and before her trip I personally helped her with a jacket that she needed for her trip. And so um, when she came back from the trip, she reached out again and said, by the way, totally unrelated, I happen to be a literary agent and a publisher that I work with, a great publisher who mostly does coffee table books and cookbooks and things like that. They would like to do a book on après ski, and asked if because they know that that she was a skier, whether she had any authors or had any ideas of who she might consider or think about recommending to approach about doing a book like this. And so then she came to me, and it was and I think it is really related obviously to the business, because a lot of what we did at Erin Snow was like my interactions with our customers. Because we kept it a small family business, I it was either myself or two other people that you might speak to when you were calling or asking about product or something like that. And usually it was me because that was my favorite thing to do, one of my
Yeah.
favorite things to do. So thankfully, I helped her, and then this came to me. And it was really fascinating because obviously it's something you kind of always fantasize about, but how on earth do you go about getting a book deal or like finding an agent or a publisher or all of these things. So, so that part of it was really incredible because I don't know that I ever would have taken the steps to bring about this book had it not happened in that way. But I feel like it just was this first full circle moment because,
Yeah.
I actually really enjoyed the writing process. I love doing the research. My whole life and professional career has been focused around skiing.
Mhm.
I love to cook. All of these things sort of came together in this book. And then, as far as like the writing and the process went, um, they in my contract I had a year basically to write the
Okay.
manuscript. Now the whole process was 2.5 years. I think from the beginning of conversation till when the book hit the shelves in bookstores. So
Uh-huh.
it's a much longer process than I could have imagined, obviously. Um, and it was just probably one of the most fun experiences I've ever had in my life and one of the best creative outlets. And just, yeah, because, I think as a designer, we take a lot of visual cues from the
Mm-hmm.
world around us. And so I had already a lot of kind of when the agent had reached out to me, instantly I thought, okay, I rattled off in my brain a million ideas for the book because they were all simmering there for
Yeah.
years because I had been using all of these reference points as inspiration for all of the collections for Erin Snow, whether it was like imagery or places or whatever, the lifestyle.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was able to pull from all of those things.
I love it. It's kind of like, it wrapped nicely in a bow, Erin Snow, the brand, for your next chapter, right? So, just looking through the book, I spent the other day reading it and looking through it. And what I really like is it's kind of like a mood board for a designer with these amazing vintage like pictures that you've collected, which sounds like, it came naturally to you because you did do that with your brand originally. And then also you go into like the history of ski, and then at the end there's recipes. So it's kind of it just captures the whole ski and après culture all so nicely, like in a well-rounded circle, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yes. And I'm so happy you say that because that was 100% the intention. And I'm so glad that that's how it came across.
Definitely. So, for people who don't have the book right in front of them, like I do, can you kind of, break down a little bit more of the sections and what they'll find inside of it? Like, I know I kind of glazed over a little bit of it briefly.
Yeah. So, yeah, so like you said, we kind of start with a little bit of the history. And obviously, this is a visual book. It's a coffee table book. And it's funny because reading comments and things like that on Amazon and the book reviews, and some people are like, oh, I wish there was more writing, right? But of course, it's a coffee table book. It's not a novel. So I tried to kind of limit so that there were short bits of information, short bits of history, and then a lot of imagery. And but yeah, starting with a little bit of the history. Obviously, I didn't want to get into the full history of how skiing evolved as a mode of transportation and into a sport, but wanted to kind of give the highlights of all of that. And then getting into and also kind of the history of how après started and where it started and how that all happened and evolved. And then the scene is really kind of a breakdown of all the different environments where you might spend après ski, like whether it's at a private chalet or the ice bar or these slopeside um, ski in, ski out kind of restaurants slash bars. And then, whether it's the like crazy nightclubs that you see in the Alps, or even, the dive bars that you go to in Killington or Colorado or out in, Tahoe. And so kind of all of those places. Then the style, obviously the style for me was kind of where I probably did the most writing. I couldn't help myself, right? So a lot of the history of ski fashion, and what always fascinates me, because I, being a fashion designer and, ski wear designer specifically, is sort of like the evolution of materials. And so that's really pivotal for skiing, and kind of the introduction of nylon fabric and how that transformed how fits kind of, were constructed, and we could get closer to the body, brighter colors, things like that. And it's not just really sport, it's really all of fashion, right? Mm-hmm. So that was like a huge moment for the world of fashion when bright colors and things like that and stretched materials were introduced. And then obviously into modern day fashion, and how it's kind of become like a full circle moment. I called the last section of the kind of the style portion of the book vintage revival. So that's really like where I came in as a designer, and some of the indie brands that came along in the early 2000s or in the last decade or so. So really like pulling back finally to like the heyday, the like golden era of ski fashion. And then finally the menu, which was really just fun, and trying to kind of, that was hard because I had to cherry pick, from all over the world, the traditional après-ski menu items, cocktails, and food, right? So I really had to like narrow it down, because I couldn't have 100 of each, right? But my only nervous bit while writing that part was how insanely unhealthy I realized. I felt so bad, because every recipe is so unhealthy, but so good, and such an indulgence. And
you're burning so many calories skiing, like
it's like when my kids started going to ski school, and they're like, "Oh, Mama, we had blue juice today." I was like, "Oh God, what is blue juice?" I know what you mean. It's like whatever that terrible soda energy. Like, why are you giving these energy drinks to 5-year-olds? It's just so bad.
Oh,
But that's the kind of stuff that that you have when you're skiing. It's okay. So
definitely. Oh my gosh. Well, it's all done so beautifully. I'm curious. So it sounds like your favorite part was the fashion and looking at those vintage styles, right? Is that correct, or what would you say?
yeah, I mean, actually, I ended up loving all of it, I
Yeah.
think. And it's what's very fun is that I got to write and publish what I believed was the important parts of the history of the culture and the style and the fashion. So like, what were those really important parts and pieces that got to be, forever kind of printed in this book? So that was very fun, especially in the fashion part, because I obviously have an opinion about that.
Definitely. What about like the hardest part? Was it like narrowing everything down, would you say? Was it more like the nitty-gritty grammar stuff? Like, what was the hardest part in writing a book?
So in the end, the part that took the longest for us was narrowing down the imagery, which because I think I must have had a file of I don't know, almost 1,000 images, and we had to narrow it down quite a bit. And then some of the images we couldn't get rights to and things like that. So that took some time trying to kind of or some weren't high resolution enough. That's another thing. I see that comment also. Of course, some of the images aren't high resolution because some of them are from 1900s or
Yeah.
even the 1800s. So we did our best with that, but that took the longest, really.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, just because it's such a game of, okay, this is what I want it to look like, but then this photographer won't give us rights. Okay, so now we need to. So that took the most time
Yeah.
to kind of sort out. But yeah, I mean, the rest of it, I would say, I was a little nervous writing the recipes, right? I'm not a chef.
Okay.
I'm a home cook. So I think I had just sort of nervous energy. Can I do this? And how will it go? But I cook a lot. I love to cook. And so that we did that section first. So I wrote that. I wrote that first, and yeah, and my poor family had to taste all of these unhealthy recipes.
No blue juice though.
No blue juice. Plenty of hot chocolate, but no blue juice. But yeah, my husband had like, I don't know, 100 Aperol spritzes. I mean, it's the most simple cocktail, but the ratio is really important. And so
Yeah.
I played with that for a long time. And anyway, now I can make a mean Aperol spritz with.
Oh my gosh, that's a good skill to have. So, since this is the Preppy podcast, I ask everyone, what does preppy mean to you? And like I mentioned, I think skiing and a prey is such a preppy activity and sport and lifestyle. So, how would you describe preppy? What's preppy to you?
So I think when I was thinking about your podcast and how it related to the book, I was thinking about kind of that golden era of skiing, which is what we tried to circle back to as a brand at Erin Snow, and what I tried to convey, like you said, especially if you're using the book as a mood board for designers,
Yeah.
which I hope they do. But that kind of that era of really being pulled together, like from head to toe, thinking about the colors, thinking about kind of the whole image and the lifestyle that goes with it. And that's such a big part of skiing and what was important about kind of the heyday of the sport and what was lost when things just got sort of haphazard and, the fashion sort of fell apart. And, there wasn't a lot of investment in the resorts and things like that. It was sort of a downtime. And now it's coming. Now, not that it's coming back, it has come back with the
Yeah.
vengeance. And so that's kind of what I was thinking about, just like that polished, pulled together, head to toe, just the incorporation of
Thoughtfulness.
like,
Yeah.
exactly, and like
Yeah.
the fashion with the lifestyle all pulled together into a package.
Yeah, no, that's a perfect answer. So I'm curious your thought because it does kind of seem like skiing and just any of those preppy hobbies and activities like golf are having such a resurgence right now. I think after COVID, but it kind of is the same question though. Whereas I think preppy is always in fact like it's classic, and same with skiing, same with golf. It's like kind of just part of American culture and classic in a way. But why do you think we're seeing so much more of it? Like, I mean, the Kardashians, we see them skiing on their show. We see it, influencers going on ski trips with brands. Any thoughts on that?
So we know a couple things, right? So obviously during COVID, these sports really kind of came into the spotlight again and took
Mhm.
off because they were outdoors and you could do
Yeah.
them. And
Yeah.
so, and it was hard to travel abroad. So we saw a big surge in skiing on all fronts. And I think golf is the same, right?
Yeah.
Because it was something you could do. And then a lot of new people came into the sport during that time.
Mm.
But really, the big thing I think also is because people live such a visual life right now where
Mhm.
they share so much of their life and the
Mhm.
visual of it is so important. And skiing and golf and all of these things visually are very appealing. You're in these beautiful locations, and especially with skiing, you get dressed to
Yeah.
go and do it. And so it's it's just it suits this world that we live in right now. And
Mhm.
of course, I'm sort of a low tech person. I don't do social media. I try to stay off of it. And so for me, I start to roll my eyes when I see people on the side of the trails, like, making their
Doing
videos,
content.
doing content. But at the same time, it was a necessary evil for me, obviously, as a brand owner, and so I get it. But I think, regardless, it was the same in the '60s, way
Yeah.
before social media existed, because it's just this visually beautiful sport, and so
Mhm.
I think that has a lot to do with it. You
Yep.
can,
That makes total sense. If you could have your book on anyone's bookshelf, who would it be? Like, who would you love to have your book? It could be a celebrity, it could be, a famous skier, it could be literally anyone. Who would be a dream?
My goodness, that is a tough question. Well, actually, I will tell you. This is funny. I was just thinking about this morning when I was getting ready. So, my childhood idol, Glenn Blake, who was sort of the father of extreme skiing, and I was lucky enough to get to know when I started Erin Snow, and we happened to be at a trade show together in Europe, and then we would see each other at the big ski shows and stuff in the years after. But I haven't seen him in a long time, and I did feature him in the book, and I really hope he gets his hand on a copy of it because I paid homage to him. He's a legend, and I just want to make sure he gets to see it and see the love that I gave him in the book because I think he was hugely important to the sport and just he's an incredible person, incredible skier. So yeah, I really hope he sees it, and I hope he likes it.
One. Yeah, I'm sure he'll love it, and that's a perfect answer. So we're getting into the season of entertaining, Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, and we're also getting into ski season. Any tip for entertaining? And I know you have so many in this book, but whether it's like a recipe that you'd recommend in here to try out that's really easier as a crowd pleaser, or something about setting the table, or just any tip for entertaining when it comes to this.
Yes. So I would say, and it's funny because I've been thinking about this, I'm going to host something soon. And I was thinking, okay, for this group of ladies, I need to do something related to the book, right? So number one is I always do a board and I make it as beautiful as humanly possible. And you have it ready, obviously, before people get there. And then I try to make it so it's something that you can pull from or use with the meal also. So like, and I talk about this in the book, but I think it's really fun if you kind of think of like a theme or a way things will kind of relate to one another. And in that case, you can do something like a fondue or something fun that's a very social eating experience.
Yeah.
And then you have your board that's already ready beforehand, so you're not stressed out. And same goes with the fondue. You can kind of prepare it a little bit, and keep it warm so that you're not stressed. You don't have like a ton of pans that are dirty when everyone gets there, and then it makes it a really social fun experience because that's always I think that's the challenge. You like, I don't know if you feel this way, but when I will cook a huge meal, spend 2-3 days cooking and prepping, and then you realize that the experience doesn't live up to all of the anticipation or the cooking. Yeah. And it feels like it fell a little flat, So I think trying to think of like making the food,
an activity with everyone. Yeah.
Activity. So you have to think just as much of like, how are you going to experience it, and not just about what food you're serving or what's on the menu, but like that always.
No, that's a great tip. I think, it's totally about making an activity, pulling people in, getting them engaged and part of it for sure. No, that's such a great tip. And the book is so beautiful for listeners. You definitely have to check it out. Which leads me to my final question. Where can people find you, find the book, any information you want to share and plug?
So I think it's available from I think the line people use, from your favorite bookseller. So it's available on Amazon, it's available at Barnes & Noble, but it's also available at a ton of local bookshops. And so I personally always love to shop at my local bookstore, but I find myself ordering, from Amazon a lot also. So wherever you are in the world, it should be pretty easy to get your hands on it. And I really hope that everyone loves it and enjoys it.
Definitely. Well, Erin, this was so much fun. Thank you so much for being on the Preppy Podcast.
Yeah, likewise. It was great fun. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for listening to the Preppy Podcast. I hope this put a little prep in your step for the day. Please subscribe, rate, and review on wherever you listen to your podcast, and follow along with @the Preppy Podcast on social media.